You don't need to know your customers better than they know themselves. You just need to know them better than your competitors do. Because surely if you were in the ring wrestling and the crowd was dead, you would change what you were doing. You wouldn't just carry on doing what you were doing. Or, well, you might do, but you'd be a pretty shitty wrestler. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
well, and the guys that kind of carried on, what it was, they were a little bit younger in the business, and really hadn't been in a situation where they kind of needed to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
So it was a learning experience for them, because no, they didn't change. They just, instead of not changing, they kind of just went through the whole match going, this crowd is stupid. This crowd doesn't get it, right? How many times do people do that with their customers? Oh, my customers are stupid. They don't get it. They're always asking for these dumb things. You know, look, if that's how you're thinking about your customer, you should probably take a vacation or something. But because if you're thinking about customers that way, something is fundamentally wrong. You've let it go too far. But you should be listening to the fact that we're obviously not delivering something. Something's missing. Something isn't connecting with our customers. Something's off. And you know, the question that I always get around that, or the pushback, I feel like it's not just questions, it's usually pushback, is, well, then, you know, how am I supposed to know what my customers want? Which goes back to the thing you just said, which is you have to talk to your customers. You know, it's surprising. Like, one thing I recommend all the time is go on site with a customer and watch how they do things, not just how they use your product. And I'm not talking about, you know, recording a session in your product. I mean, like, go watch them, how they do just their daily routine, because you will get so much out of that. But you know, when was the last time, I ask companies all the time, when was the last time anybody here did that? Just talk to a customer, listened to a customer, not go out and show them how to use the product or anything. Just listen and observe. And you know what? It's either not in a long time or it's never. You know, these are things you might do in the early days of a startup, but at some point you feel like, I guess, you know more than the customer. And I'm not saying that we should be in a position where we know the customers better than they know themselves, but that doesn't come from not talking to customers. That comes from actually really getting to know them. And one really quick example, just to kind of hit that point home. I worked with a company that did done for you email marketing for a couple of very specific niches. One was like little manufacturers, and they worked on all these different ways. All their customer had to do was upload email addresses to the system, and basically they would write the email and send it out on their behalf. But that wasn't happening very much. They weren't getting email addresses coming in for their customers. And so we went out to one of these a little office of this little manufacturing company, and talking, you know, just watching how they do things. And we saw a stack of business cards on their desk, and these guys had spent a lot of money and a lot of time and effort and energy in, you know, integrating with all these different ways to pull in contacts, right? Well, it turns out their customers were very, you know, low tech people, and they would go out and they would network with people and they would get business cards. And so their email list was sitting on their desk. It wasn't a lack of integrations that was causing this, you know, them not pull in the email addresses. It was the fact that those email addresses are on a business card sitting there on their desk. So they did one more integration, and that was with one of those companies that digitizes business cards. And so now every month these guys get a box, they put the business cards in there and send them in, and 2 or 3 days later, all their email addresses are on their contact list. So it's something that they never would have even thought to ask, or they might have, but it could have been too late, you know, sometime down the road. So they went out and just observed, just look around, and you see that, gosh, you know, what we are as a software startup is very different from these guys in a very, you know, low tech world. Even though they're dealing with manufacturing and stuff, they still operate in a way that's different from us. So you have to know you're not necessarily your customer, and you know, go out and figure those things out. It's just a different way of looking at it. And the other thing I see sometimes people are like, well, you know, our CEO was a real estate agent, and then we started this company, this software company. I'm like, okay, cool. When was your CEO and real estate agent? Oh, like 15 years ago. Okay, probably things have changed a little bit. So you can't really rely on that pedigree. Now, if they were a real estate agent 15 years ago and 15 days ago they spent some time in the field with current agents, that's a different story. But, you know, we just have to understand that our customers have a lot of valuable intel. We may not just be able to straight up ask them, what's your desired outcome, right? We probably need to do some discovery there. But anyway,
they probably don't really know how to articulate it for themselves.
Right, which is fine. They shouldn't have to. It's our job to do that discovery.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you really inspired me there with something that you said. And it made me think, you don't need to know your customers better than they know themselves. You just need to know them better than your competitors do.